Hello, brilliant souls around the world, wherever you may be. Thank you for tuning into this video today, and I'm very excited to talk about this lunar eclipse coming up tomorrow and share some frequencies for these times that maybe can support us in, wow, very intense energies waking up now around the world. So we're having some of the biggest solar flares that have ever been recorded in 3 years. So we are experiencing a lot of intense and powerful energies that is certainly connected to all of this tension we're experiencing around the world. We've been in lockdown for quite some time in most of the world, and now in the United States there are protests and riots, which are two different things. So we have all of this energy kind of shown in the astrological chart. And so what do we have going on? We have the Sun conjunct Venus in Gemini. And when Venus is the morning star that was once thought to be a sign of war, and also another sign of war is Mars opposed the Sun, and the Mars making this kind of intense relationship, a square relationship to Venus and the Sun in Gemini, and also a square relationship to the eclipse itself in Sagittarius. So the Sun's in 15 degrees Sagittarius, and the moon is rather, then the Sun and Venus are in 15 Gemini, and Mars is in 15 Pisces. So we're right in the midsection of the mutable signs. So this is a mutable T-square, and mutable energies are blessed energies because they allow us to transition from one form to another, but they can also be very challenging transitional energies. They can be energies that are very hard to pin down and moving all over the place and creating, in this case, a strong tension. Though what we also have here is actually a sextile as well between Uranus in Taurus and Mercury in Cancer. And you can consider that, in a sense, Mercury is the lower logical mind, but, it's still a very magical mind. All of this linguistic and communicative essence is how we create a reality, though Uranus is a higher octave of that. That is the innovative spiritual part of us that can get downloads and insights and inspiration that inspires us to change and innovate. And so they're both, in a sense, mental functions, and they're sextile. That shows me that perhaps we are getting our mind on board the picture. Mercury in Cancer, it's like we're coming to embody love and nurture. Our mind is getting on board to nurture each other through these challenging times. And it's in relationship to how this, Taurus is all about our values and our systems and the most down-to-earth stuff. All of the financial systems and value systems in our world are going fundamental shift, and Taurus is also the earth itself. It's Gaia. So our relationship to the earth is going through this powerful shift, and in this eclipse our mind is getting on board what it really means to be in that change, if we want that. And though there is this huge tension manifesting, and that's kind of the biggest thing. In the United States, it's about the murder of George Floyd and all of the protests around that, and the Black African American community is really stepping up and saying we really finally want to be treated equally, and we don't want this police brutality anymore. We are demanding this. So many people are getting on board with that, but then it's creating this, and there's also with it an intense reaction from white supremacists and nasty, hateful people that are also getting involved in these riots and sometimes inspiring them. And the cops themselves are, in many cases, actually directly related to these white supremacists and nasty agendas. So there's this big conflict going on. And this is something that is, in a sense, recurring pattern, because the last time Saturn was in this degree of Aquarius, there was the Rodney King event in 1992, and then before that there was the Civil Rights Movement. That was the last time Saturn was in Aquarius. So now we're getting another cycle of this. Aquarius is all about being egalitarian and equal, and making a world that is more idealistic and harmonious. So there's some other crazy transitions as well. Last time Chiron was in Aries was during the counterculture movement. Last time the Neptune was in Pisces was the fall of the Roman Empire. And that wasn't the last time, I'm sorry. But Neptune was in Pisces when that fall occurred. Neptune and Pisces all being about illusion, deception. And as well, Pluto is in Capricorn when the United States was founded. Pluto has these roughly 250-year cycles, and a lot of civilizations don't last longer than this because Pluto is all about this great death and rebirth. And I would say that this is really a turning point for the United States of America. And so we also have here the moon in Sagittarius and the sun and Venus in Gemini. So Venus is in its retrograde cycle, and retrograde cycle for Venus is one that can be so challenging for relationships and so challenging for finances. And with the sun conjunct it, it's kind of like the culmination of this retrograde cycle. It's really highlighting Venus as this core thing. How we relate to our wealth and how we relate to each other is going some serious revision with this eclipse. And the moon in Sagittarius can really be seen as perhaps a fanatical being, or perhaps in a balanced state, it is a very aware, spiritually ambitious creator. So I see that this big gap here is something that may come to be really important at this time. So in this time, we can really see that there is the potential for really intense conflicts arising, and it's a kind of universal law that the more you resist, what you're resisting persists. What you resist persists, more simply put. So all of this fighting back and forth between, conservative and liberal people may really come to an escalation at this point. And so there is this desire as well to be unified that is really being highlighted. And that's very true with how we're going to move through Aquarius with Jupiter and Saturn, and later in some years Pluto. We want to come back into harmony with all beings and unity and equality. Yet, in order to get there, we first have to realize that things are unequal. So I see a lot of this conflict showing up between the way we have the square between Mars and Neptune with the eclipse and with the sun. So Mars with Neptune is bringing up people to really strongly identify with their beliefs and fight for their beliefs, whatever their beliefs are. But the issue is that, Neptune and Pisces, these are about illusion and deception. We may have this very big spiritual fuel behind it, but do we know how much our belief systems are really influencing it? And that's also something, all of these, the Sagittarius and Gemini, this is, an axis of knowledge. So Sagittarius is more about spiritual, intuitive knowledge, that it's kind of like this inner knowing that awakens within us with a great fire. And Gemini is more about, well, I'm going to obtain more objective knowledge by tuning into this perspective, that, and seeing it from every angle so I get a whole scope of things. And for this reason, Gemini's truth is, in a way, much more loose and hard to say one thing or another than Sagittarius' truth, which is aiming for one specific goal and comes from a more inner place than a more externalized, let's look at all the evidence here. And the moon is also a sign that rules deception. So, a planet rather. And, what I am really seeing now, because the spiritual community is something a little bit different than the political community. And the spiritual community's commentary on this political community can align with one side of the political community or align with the other. And I really think that we're seeing, a division emerge. I'm perceiving a big division emerge as people are getting more identified with their belief systems. They're Sagittarian, like, there it is. And I think this eclipse is going to perhaps show us this division, or show us a great explosion of conflict more, or it's going to allow us to return to unity and go beyond some of these things. Though, in order to get to unity, we have to see at what levels we are actually united. Because at certain levels, for example, at the level of equality and opportunity, we are not equal in this world. And there's a lot of spiritual bypassing out there, where people saying like, oh, but through the law of attraction, anyone can create anything. And that is perhaps a universal truth, but it isn't a truth that understands the nature of trauma, that the experience our grandparents had and their grandparents had changes our DNA and changes the way that we cope with reality and what we believe about ourselves. So experiences that are happening long ago are genetically tied into the now. And of course we have tools to change all of that, and that's the goal of all of the spirituality. Though, the reality of these things is you can only get from one point to another if, as a group, as a whole, people of one race or one belief system or one economic class or one country, one nation, are generally at one level of accessibility to these ideas of freedom and abundance, the belief systems that create that to be their reality, then it's going to take a whole lot more for them to get from one step to another. And we have to understand that the structure of how all of these systems are at work in the world are set up to make some people more advantaged and others less advantaged. And we're not going to really allow that to continue in these coming times, because the energies are pushing us towards unity. But there may be these little rampages before we get there. And what is potentially alarming is with the current one, that if supposedly there are forces that are attempting to incite these violent riots and make them worse, there could potentially be another force that is attempting to bring about more militaristic control and enforcement. And this lockdown is, again, kind of a planned event. And it's a way that they are really seeking to take more control of us. So there may be incentives to make these riots a lot worse than they could be, just to harness greater control. And that's something we really have to look out for. We want to be instilling a vibration of peace and harmony rather than fighting and pushing against something. And it's one thing to call it for what it is. This is an unequal system. This is set up to rob the earth of her natural beauty and resources. And it's set up to rob certain people of their basic freedoms while giving other people luxuries. We are not okay with this. It's one thing to say that, and it's another thing to destroy and fight in a way that with the people that are presently in control, we're going to see that there may be some pretty intense enforcement out there. And that may very well lead to, perhaps in the coming future, people seeing for real, if they're not already getting it, that the President of the United States at the moment is really a dark force that is attempting to take serious control. And, you know, with the present energies, this may just very well be a sign that the next wave of that control is coming, and we have the potential to shift that. But right now, what is being harnessed is this sort of false matrix of hope. That, you know, people just want to surrender to everything in the background being okay. You know, they want to just let it be all right. Like, oh no, it can't be as bad as they really say it is out there. And people in the spiritual community who have been taught it's all about light and positivity have distorted that to think that we shouldn't see reality as it really is. So it's a little bit mind-boggling to me how many people in the spiritual field are getting tied into QAnon and all of these conspiracy theories that say on some level Trump is a secret good guy. And now a lot of this MK Ultra and Illuminati stuff is real, and it's been around for a while. And I've known about this since 2011, and I was like, yeah, like, there's some truth to this, and you can really see the symbolism and feel the energy that there is this hidden elite attempting to take control. Now, it's becoming more and more obvious, and so more people are coming to really see something isn't working behind the scenes, and this QAnon is taking an opportunistic stance of, oh, well, this information is out there. If we leak this and claim that, you know, Trump is beyond all of this, we can take a hold of people. And it's really this, you know, Neptune delusion. People are in Pisces, Neptune and Pisces, living more in illusion than in reality, right? We're all under that spell at this time, and able to take this to be something real. Part of this is also, you know, just this sort of blind faith that things are just gonna work out, that is a bit diluted, because we really have to take a stand for what we want to see in the world. And so what this is saying is, you know, the opposition, the sun is asking us to have this more critical, discerning, skeptic Gemini mind, and the moon, illusion, is in this Sagittarian, like, oh, I'm a zealot, I so identified with my beliefs, I don't need evidence, I just know. But we're actually being deceived by that force within us right now. And what we're really being asked to do is to open our mind to so many different ways of seeing this, because the truth here is so relative, and there are so many theories out there about what is going on, but we have to compare all of them up to the evidence, and we have to feel the core frequency of this, right? So, you know, things are not so hidden as they seem. I don't really believe in hidden knowledge. I only believe that, you know, we have received a lot of conditioning. We've received a lot of belief systems that stop us from trusting our immediate perception of things. And if we really tap into our emotional response and the emotional energy emanating from someone, such as a world leader, we can feel where they're really at. And right now we have somebody who is filled with hate and animosity and is power hungry, and all of the facts on paper show has been lying and stealing all his life, is associated with other names that people in these conspiracy theories hate so much, like Epstein, and all of this evidence is there, and yet people are choosing this blind faith in something that appeals to their belief system of spirituality and appeals to their blind sense of having hope in humanity. And we need to restore our faith in the divine while being very critical of humanity and realizing we're a part of humanity. And we have to be examples of behavior we want to see in humanity, and we have to guide other people to do the same thing, or else this isn't going to change, all right? And this is like many turning points, like all of the beings are saying out there, that we have shifting windows of reality. We're shifting through timelines. This is one of those windows. And how we respond to the very intense and powerful events we're about to see, and we are seeing, is going to determine what results of this. There's certainly a timeline where it all gets okay, and this is the greatest escalation of it that causes us to reevaluate our relationship with nature, to reevaluate our relationship with each other, and reevaluate our relation to power. But if we don't choose that, and we choose having blind faith, and we choose, again, saying, I trust my leaders regardless, everything's going to work out for me in my personal reality bubble right here, right now. So I don't want to be too critical about this. We're, again, enabling a darker agenda to play out. So, let's not make fear our enemy. Let's make fear our friend. Let's understand that when we're feeling afraid, we are sabotaging ourselves and we're attracting challenging realities. Though we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We can't throw our concerns and our critical thinking and our skeptic mind out with the bathwater of fear. We have to retain that stuff and start to look thoroughly at everything before us. And again, this Neptune and Mercury, Uranus and Mercury thing, it's like nurture each other through the changes to the earth and the changes to our value system. How do we get our minds in alignment with nurturing each other and being nurtured ourselves while the values are changing? And of course we have still all this retrograde in Capricorn, changing of the financial structures, changing of the guards, changing of our priorities, changing of how we relate to power and moving forward in our lives. And then that's still at work. So connecting this as well to the Mayan and the Galactic Mayan energies. So this is another system that works in relationship with, they work in a relationship with each other, just like Western and Eastern, Western and Vedic astrology. They're different takes on the same basic system. So I'm going to start first with the local calendar here. So here from Guatemala, this eclipse is happening during the energy of 10 Akabal. And 10 Akabal is the energy of the in-between night and day, or in between day and night. And therefore it's an energy of obscurity, but it's also an energy of perhaps intense fertility and creativity. It's an energy of dreaming. It's an energy of how what we dream becomes. And it's an energy of great sensitivity as well. So And 10 is about, our 10 fingers. It's about how we relate and engage in community. So this is a transition and a new dreaming of our community that is manifesting through this 10 akabal. And it's under the conception of 5 bots. 5 is hard work and change. Bots is the monkey and is playful. It's a bit of a trickster. So this is conceived under our creative energy, and it's moving... Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's the destiny. That didn't feel right that it was the conception. It's conceived under 2 Sikhin. So 2 is the duality. Sikhin is the higher vision. It's the eagle. It's seeing from a much higher perspective. So we're coming to this point of a change in our relation to the community through this higher perspective that we have tapped into, a higher perspective of duality, just what I was talking about, looking at all the evidence, seeing the good and the bad and everything, and not having these definitive value judgments of this is good and that is bad, that person is good and that person is bad, this initiative is good and that initiative is bad, that movement is good and that movement is bad. Instead of seeing from that perspective, seeing the good and the bad in everything, seeing the dualistic nature of, police create protesters, protesters create police. And the more we fight against, the more control is evoked. So there we go. And 5 bots, this is the destiny of this. So this is a hard work with our creative energy to create something and to lighten up. And what we're all really needing to do is to lighten up, because we're getting so serious with all this pent-up energy. It's inviting us to lighten up and be silly and be playful, right? And that energy can loosen up the tension and loosen up our resistance. So the challenge of this is 3 toch, is the offering, and the strength is for noch, the intellect and the intelligence. So we have this wit working for us, and in 4 noch it's very structured, and 3 toch is the offering. So this is more about, we have to not let our mind sabotage our connection with our body. We have to not let this desire and this knowing sabotage the genuine harmony that comes with being in alignment with our body. We can speak a truth in a way that's aggressive and create stress in our body and stress in others. And regardless of if we were speaking was true and valid, that stress and that pushing and mental energy behind it then was wasted, because it created disharmony and threw us out of balance. So make an offering, make our actions at this time an offering. So that is for, it's 10 Akabal tomorrow here on June 5th. And I would guess maybe that this calendar is so connected to this land that would maybe have a more powerful energy into the eclipse, but into the eclipse, it's on the other side of the world, and it's at night there, so it's starting to move into the other energy, and we can look at the other energy too. So the next day, June 6th, is 11 Kat, and Kat is the net. Kat is the net that allows us to carry our abundance, but it's also a net that can constrain us. So 11 is about sometimes breaking free from old energy patterns and bringing renewal and moving us up to the next level. After we've come to completion at 10, we're again transforming. So 11 is a changing number. And so this is really about changing our relationship to the network. What about it is limiting us? What connections are in our way? It's coming from this energy of 3 Achmak, born under the energy of forgiveness. Achmak is forgiveness. We need to bring with us in this time the energy of a kind of universal love. Achmak is also connected to plants. So a universal love and forgiveness, it will be something that comes with us in these times. And it's leading us to 6 This is the road, it's moving forward, and 6 is the number of structure. So we're bringing structure to our plans of how we move forward. That is the destiny of what we're doing now, and cutting away any relations that don't serve and tapping into how we can create a strong net to contain the abundance we are taking with us. And the challenge here is 4C, so we're challenged by the structure 4 of C, which is the law. C is also about great unconditional love. So, though it is about the law, and as a challenge, the first thing that comes up is like we're being challenged by the intensity of the law. But our strength is 5 Tihash. Yeah. 5 Tihash. So again, that's why I've been saying cutting away. Tihash is all about cutting away, but it's a forceful cutting away. We have to cut ourselves away from the laws and all of the energies in place that are sabotaging our free choice and our freedom to roam, move, which is a lot of what the A energy is. So the galactic calendar, going first with the energy from here. I didn't even write with I activate to beautify, is electric star, yellow electric star. So all of these come with a koan, which is a phrase that activates the energy of the day. So the phrase for tomorrow will be, I activate in order to beautify, bonding art. I seal the store of elegance with the electric tone of service. I am guided by the power of free will. Electric star is all about this artistic expression, and electric is about service. So we may be really brought into, the highest expression of our intellect and all this energy at work is a beautifying, beautiful expression that intends to serve others, to bring all of this energy into some artistic form that serves others. And that artistic essence is much in alignment with the Bot's energy that comes in through the Mayan, through local Mayan here. And then, the following energy, and I like this one is present because it is, after all, lunar eclipse, and it's the red self-existing moon. And so the other side of the world will be under this influence of energy more during the eclipse. And of course, the moon turns red during an eclipse. So red moon here is very timely. I define in order to purify. Measuring flow. I seal the process of universal water with the self-existing tone of form. I am guided by the power of life force. I define in order to purify. So again, it really speaks to getting that clearer perspective in order to purify ourselves of these toxic belief systems, these bypassing belief systems. And self-existing tone of form is all about how we're creating structure in our lives. And these are the structures to purify our emotional body. Being guided by the power of life force is really about stepping back into that vitality within us. And the power of life force is the power of the serpent, which is deeply connected with the sexuality. And and this day is, I am a galactic activation portal, enter me. So it's also a galactic activation portal, and these are highly charged interdimensional days that allow more of the energy to flow through us and connect us even deeper with this powerful source vibration. So it is certainly a doozy. What else can I say? I've said a lot, but this energy that we're working with is very powerful. And being guided by the power of life force also reminds me, that the moon is, it's in the sign of Sagittarius. The movement of the stars means that, since this astrological system was developed 2,000 years ago, the stars have shifted. So the moon is really close to the stars of Scorpio and certain stars that are associated with power, and life force and power are really tied together. This may be a time where our life force is challenged, and we are challenged in the ways that we relate to perhaps our partners, and we're challenged in how we relate to sexual energy and the energy of power in general. And it all really comes back to, this is a time in which we are reestablishing our sense of what power is, and we're not using force anymore, but we are coming to see that the ways that we relate to the earth harm the earth and block the resources from being used in non-toxic ways, that the more we hurt the earth, the more we hurt ourselves. Like, the more we're harming the earth, the more that now we're getting these viruses, and we're getting these intense activities of destructive natural phenomena. And then, the more that we hurt others in this economic struggle, the more now there's protests. And the solution is, yes, standing firmly for what you want and what you believe in. And it's an egalitarian, equalized time. Though without pushing and fighting back and resisting so powerfully that we guarantee more fight, and we allow for things to get even more militarized. In a sense, it does seem like in the United States they are really pushing that militarized place, and we have to stand for freedom and stand for truth and keep our minds open so that we are not perpetuating violence and we are not enabling violence by standing back and giving our consent to these abusive, authoritarian, tyrannical forces. This is a time that could make or break the world, and we decide by the energies and the frequency that we bring into this reality what we ourselves create. So I hope that you enjoyed this video about the eclipse. I haven't made too many videos of this nature going into all of the astrology, but this seemed like a really beautiful time to do that. And I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have comments. I do personal astrology readings. I do the channeling sessions. I'm running a channeling course. It's in the first week. If you're seeing this right now as the video is coming out, you could still hop in if you're really called. And thank you so much for sharing this video, liking the video, sharing it on Patreon. If you've made it here to the very end, I really appreciate that you enjoy and benefit from these transmissions I'm doing, and your love and your support and your viewing of it inspires me to just keep sharing. So thank you again so much, and much love and many blessings and warm hugs and all the nice things in the universe to you and to everyone. Much love and blessings. Catch you later.